stokethefire.guru, and I'm Pamela Cuccinell, and I am about to give you the astrology forecast for the week. But before I do that, I'd like to introduce you to my friend and colleague, Susie. Susie?
Hi everyone, welcome to Stoke the Fire. I'm Susie Mazzoli, and what we do every week is Pamela gives you the astrology, which is a wonderful, very practical forecast in about 20-25 minutes, going through every day of the week. And then I give a meditation, an energetic meditation, which is really based on the astrology of the week to give us like a really a spiritual understanding of what we're going to be dealing with and how to really use that information to uplift us and to take us into what we would say the highest potential of the week. And you can find information about the program on stokethefire.guru. We do offer it actually as a special members program if you'd like to donate some of your wonderfully hard-earned cash to support the program. We then deliver this to your mailbox every week before Monday, preferably, so that you can actually plan for the week. And the information comes to you in its condensed version of just the astrology and the meditation. So stokethefire.guru is where you can find more information, and we have some specials there as well to encourage you to join us. And just to say thank you as well to everyone who does join us every week. Our membership is growing, and we're so very happy to be sharing all this information with you. Pam and I have been doing this for many, many years now, probably maybe even 5 years now, I can't even remember, but every Monday this is where we are together with you, providing you an overview of the week. And we'll speak a little bit more about who we are and what we do, perhaps after the forecast, and give you some more information. So Pam, here we are. What's happening this week?
Right, what's happening this week? And as Susie said, we have been doing this for, it probably is about 4 or 5 years, but for the first several years, it was just by subscription, just the audio. And it's really only been about the past 6 months or so that we've been doing the YouTube videos. And part of the motivation to do that is because we are in such intense times on the planet. And it's our way basically of getting the message bigger about how we are all agents of change. And I was doing a forecast, a brief forecast the other night in New York City. And just as I'm looking towards the end of the year, which we'll be talking more about over the next few weeks, but as I look towards the end of the year, a lot of things that are so intense right now is because we're in the last gasp, really, of the planet Saturn moving through the sign of Sagittarius, where it's been for about 2.5 years. And so as it's making its last movements in late degrees of this mutable fire sign, Sagittarius, we are seeing a lot of the conflict, polarization, shoot from the hip sort of. That's kind of not even a fun thing to say these days with the mass shootings that have been happening in the United States. So as we move through the next 5 weeks until mid-December, we are going to see a lot of things that seem very speeded up, very in your face, very, very hot. Coupled with that, Jupiter has moved into the sign of Scorpio, which happened in early October. And wherever Jupiter is, it makes things bigger, more expansive. And in the sign of Scorpio, which is about secrets, revelation, delving into the mystery, it's very electric almost every day, if not several times a day. We're seeing on the news or across Twitter feed or whatever about a new, not even a scandal, but a new declaration of someone who overextended in power to put someone in a sexual harassment or power play position. and that's very Jupiter in Scorpio. So Saturn in Sagittarius, like making certain declarations hard that have to do, or limiting the scope of things that have to do with how things are actually articulated or practiced. And Jupiter in Scorpio, where these this is a wild ride right now. So let me talk, as Susie said, about the week of November 13th, which is where we are as we are broadcasting this. So November 13th, for our folks who get it the Sunday before, the moon has been in the sign of Virgo, and it went void of course at 10:45 a.m. today, Monday, and it moves into the sign of Libra at 6:26 p.m. All the times I give you are Eastern time. Please adjust depending on where you are on the planet. So as it moves, as it's in that space between late morning and early evening, when it's what we call void of course, or if you're reading something, you'll see VOC. What that means is the moon is not making any geometric aspects to another heavenly body before it leaves that sign and enters the new sign. And so from an astrologer's perspective, this is a time when basically no one is emotionally invested in the outcome of what occurs. So we recommend that you don't do anything that you're emotionally invested in, because it's not going to play out the way you would like. So when the moon is in the sign of Virgo, it is an excellent time to organize, do things that have to do with your daily routine, do things that have to do with service. These are all things that are perfect to do when the moon is void, of course, as long as you're not expecting some kind of outcome declaration or sign the dotted line, because that will not come to fruition the way you intend. If you do need to do something like that, do it before 10:45 a.m. Monday morning, or once the moon has entered the sign of Libra at 6:26 p.m. on Monday evening. Once it's in the sign of Libra, then we're in a really nice period of wrapping things up, coming to the table, negotiating, able to meet someone where you really need to meet them. So anything that has to do with I'm taking responsibility or making a commitment to declaring your authority, all these things are really, really great to put into place when the moon is in Libra at this point in time. So I'm just adjusting my computer. It's doing some funny things. So I apologize for the little wobbly thing for those who are seeing this on video. But but what I like about it, because again, not thinking anything's an accident, as I'm looking at when the moon moves into the sign of Libra, one of the things that's happening, not so much Monday evening, which is a great evening for just enjoying something cultural, meeting friends for dinner, or having a nice conversation with someone you care about, or even just someone you have to mediate or discuss something with. All those things work really, really well Monday evening, especially anything that has to do with let's wrap this up, let's move past this thing that's kind of been in our way. And I say that because the moon is in the waning period. We're moving into the new moon that we'll see this weekend. So as we're in that place, it's the energetic thrust is on completion, follow through. It's not that you can't begin something new, you can, but if you are in a process of moving through something or trying to finish something up, complete something, get somebody on the phone so that you can wrap it up, this is a really excellent time to do it, because energetically you have that momentum that's working with you. So the 14th, Tuesday, the moon is still in the sign of Libra. And the 14th actually is a pretty good day for just moving quickly when you know where you're going and who you want to do it with. It's absolutely fabulous for just booking through stuff that you have to get through. And even if you don't know who you're doing it with, it can be really good for, oh, okay, I'm traveling, I'm moving around. And it's almost like for people who do mass transit or a lot of commuting or travel, you know that some days or some connections you're making, it's almost like this wave. Everybody is flowing together. People are holding doors for one another. It's like clockwork precision. And then there are other days when it feels like, why is that guy going this direction against traffic? And it almost seems crazy. But that's the kind of fluidity I'm seeing on the 14th, on Tuesday. It's this, we can move this, we can do this, we can make this happen. Mail, conversation, communications, very fast moving, lots of information coming in. So it's the most important thing about Thursday, and actually I could say, I mean Tuesday, and I could say the same thing looking at Wednesday, is that you keep your eye on where you want to be going. And as long as you know where you want to be going, you're going to get there very, very quickly on Tuesday. On Wednesday, there's more kind of detours and impasses. And it doesn't mean that you won't still achieve the same goal. It just means that things they come up that you didn't anticipate or expect. And sometimes that actually works out to your advantage because and this is also part of really being clear on what it is you want to achieve or what direction you want to go. Because even if a detour or derailment happens, you still know where you have to go and at what time. And so you're not going to get interrupted or disturbed or take a segue that's somewhere that is just not where you really have planned to go. So as a result, you're looking at, okay, this happened, so now I still have to get to there. And sometimes it could even happen where you thought it was going to take you this turn and that turn and this turn to get to where you wanted to go. But because of the detour, they opened up a whole corridor that didn't exist before, and you get there even faster. But if you're stuck just thinking about, no, I need to go this way and that way and that way, then you're totally missing the faster avenue to achievement. And that's the thing to really keep in mind on Wednesday is, let me not be so attached to however I thought it needed to happen so that I don't miss how it can happen even more gracefully and more efficiently. On the 16th, the moon goes void, of course, at 7:50 p.m. on Wednesday night. At that point, the moon is void, of course, in Libra. Excellent night for just relaxing. Libra is about, let me enjoy beauty, let me enjoy music, let me enjoy camaraderie, let me just enjoy. It might also be that you want to take a long bath, you want to do a long yoga session, whatever it is that makes you feel as though your equilibrium is achieved. That is a beautiful thing to do for yourself Wednesday night, the 15th. 16th, Thursday, the moon enters Scorpio at 3:19 a.m. Now, this is putting us in line for the new moon in Scorpio that happens on Saturday. And this new moon on Saturday is a real, like, high intensity new beginning moon. It's not an eclipse. It doesn't have any kind of fancy, like really dynamic aspects to it. What it has is it has total flow to it. However, it's going to be in the sign of Scorpio. So I'll talk more about that when we get to Saturday. But just talking about Thursday, the 16th, when it enters the sign, we are in a place where if you are ready to invite in true commitment, intensity, your maximum passion, you are going to have an amazing month and beyond. But the best way to do it is to prepare for it. So these 48 hours leading up to that new moon on Saturday, this is the dark of moon period. And the dark of moon period, when the moon is in Scorpio, is as dark as it gets. So let me explain this. I always think of the dark of moon period as Hecate's time. And Hecate is one of the very oldest goddesses. She was morphed and changed when the patriarchal cultures came in. But basically, she is the gatekeeper. She is the midwife. She is the midwife of birth, and she is the midwife of death. Hecate stands at the crossroads. So needless to say, a lot of people, think of her as kind of not a very comfortable goddess energy, because who likes to be at the crossroads, especially if the crossroads are death? But death is not just when we die, it's also when we go through anything that is an irrevocable transformation. And when you're in touch with your Hecate energy, because the gods and goddesses in astrology all represent pieces of the psyche. That's what they symbolize to us. It's not that I worship the great goddess Hecate. It's that I recognize that there is a component within me that is very old, that I just know, that is all about this. I am at this point, this precipice, where it's time for me to pass through the gates. And there's something unknown about it. There's something dark about it. I don't necessarily know where it's going to lead me or what the resolution is, but I trust that this is a process that is organic and part of why I am here. And I am one with the process of, I was born into this lifetime and there's only one way out, which is death. So every time we have a dark of moon period, which happens every 28 days, we are put in the womb of Hecate's time. And basically we are put in this place of darkness where we don't necessarily know what's ahead. But when you're in the darkness of the womb or below the soil where the seed's been planted, as it starts to accept moisture, there's only one way out, and that's to move towards the light. The seed sprouts and moves towards the light. The baby in the womb starts to feel very uncomfortable and starts to go through this process that pushes her to the light. And that's where we are when we're in this dark of moon period. We're a little uncomfortable, but we also, as we get into the darkness, we also start to stretch towards what's happening next. And when the dark of moon happens to be in the sign of Scorpio, we have an opportunity to really look at whatever's holding us back in a capacity of what's keeping you from really seeing how you want to transform and grow. So on the 16th, there's a picture in the sky between Neptune and Venus. It's a beautiful picture. It's what we call a trine. And Venus represents goddess of love, what attracts us to who we love or what we love, how we create harmony. And also how we attract abundance, money, and wealth. Neptune, a lot of astrologers consider the higher octave of Venus. Neptune represents how we're all connected in this big universal unconsciousness. Our blue planet is mainly water, Neptune, god of the sea. Our bodies are mainly water. Water is the conduit or the element that tells us how we're all connected with one another. So this beautiful picture in the sky, coupled with the fact that later in the day the moon is in exact alignment with Jupiter, speaks of a very highly auspicious day. Now, you can read things on the net that are going to be telling you all year that yes, Jupiter is usually so auspicious, but now it's in the Scorpio, so we have to be afraid of that. I don't think that way, but Scorpio is one of the most maligned signs of the zodiac because people are afraid of its intensity and power. When we know our unconscious well, when we work on knowing what has been unconscious to us and work on bringing it to the light, we become much more powerful and strong. So it's not easy to go there, but it's also, it's revelatory. It wakes us up. So you're going to see in the news, in the media, towards the end of the week, and especially as we get to this new moon in Scorpio, I think there's going to be a lot more revelations and things that come out and all kinds of very disturbing and sort of shocking things. But then the other piece of it is, as it comes to the light, the shadow burns off and we really start to see it and move into something that's truly transformational. So very powerful day. Usually dark of moon period, we're not talking about beginning new things, but I think it's great to put things on the launch pad for jumping and running when we get to that new moon. Friday is also a really excellent day, not necessarily with that same lucky charm, loving energy we have on Thursday, but I see it as really being a very powerful, very strong day. The moon goes void, of course, at 6:42 a.m. on early Saturday morning, the 18th, and that's when the moon is in exact line with the sun. So that is the new moon. And once it's void, of course, in the sign of Scorpio, it stays void until 1:59 p.m. when it enters the sign of Sagittarius. So this Thursday, Friday, pre-dawn preparation period of Saturday, excellent, excellent time to kind of lay out your foundation of where you want to be going over the next lunar cycle, because that Scorpio moon, new moon, is all about inviting in true transformation. Every new moon is a new beginning. It's a fresh start. But in the sign of Scorpio, it's a fresh start that recognizes what has to die in order to allow the fresh start. And death, a lot of people fear for whatever reason. And Susie and I talk about this a lot, and she may, and the master teachers may go into this afterwards, but death seems very final to people, and it's one reason why they're so afraid of it. But if you see death as being something that you transform, and I use the word recycle a lot, but I know integrate is a word that happens. Integrate into a new understanding of it. And anybody who's been through a psychoanalytical process or been through things in their life that have been death, divorce, passages that they didn't want to do, loss of job, bankruptcy, you know, there's all kinds of things that can happen in life, unfortunately. When we go through it, it's absolutely terrible. We feel like we don't know who we are anymore, and we don't, because that is not going to exist anymore. But then we get to a launch pad where we realize I'm stepping into this new world. And ideally, as we enter into that new frame or realization, we have been born into something that's a new way of being, for better or worse. So the best way to approach a new moon in Scorpio is to say, what is it that it's time for me to integrate differently? What is it that I no longer want to repeat or have that same pattern? Because the moon also is about our habits, our patterns, what's familiar to us. And we become very attached to certain ways of being that aren't necessarily constructive for us or where we really want to be for our destiny or purpose. So the more conscious we are of looking at it and saying that I am moving from this, or I am putting this inside of me and learning from this and coming out differently, the more we make it happen. So that's the kind of energy and power that's up for you with this Scorpio new moon. So once the moon is in the sign of Sagittarius, early afternoon on Saturday, that is usually, we say, not necessarily start something with the new moon, give it some time to gestate. It may feel as though it's just taking off for you, depending on what it is. I mean, you may find yourself with certain invitations, or people come to you with certain things, or it's just taking off. You don't want to resist if it's put in front of you. And with the Sagittarius moon energy, there is a lot of impetus to kind of roll and move with it. Sunday has a lot of stops and starts. There is a there is a power struggle thing that occurs with a Mars-Pluto picture in the early morning on Sunday. Don't get into arguments, avoid them. And sometimes, always, there's an argument going on with yourself that surfaces. So just see where that's coming from so that you don't go into a landmine that isn't helpful or constructive for you. Once we get into mid-afternoon on Sunday, then it's like full speed ahead and the playing field really opens up. And Monday is a highly dynamic day, which I'll talk more about next week. But we have a deep thinking week ahead of us, and prepare for that new moon in as conscious a way as possible. So Susie.
Wow. Okay. So what stands out to me is working with the darkness, as you spent a bit of time talking about that too. What comes to mind is sometimes when I'm working with students and clients, one of the big kind of restrictions that comes up is, which is a fear essentially, is fear of the unknown. So I think that what we'll do with the Master Teachers is work on preparing us for that dark of moon and letting us open up and recognizing the fear of the unknown. Okay, does that sound okay? Yeah?
Yes, that sounds good. I'm sorry.
Wonderful. Okay, so off we go. And I invite everyone, as always, to just take a place here of nice and quiet where you can sit nice and still. And I'll begin. Dear loved ones, we are the Master Teachers, and as we work together, we invite you now to find that place where you become uncomfortable. Find that place where there are some restrictions. Everyone has that place within themselves where there is darkness. And for example, if we symbolize it with the house, it's like one of those rooms in your house, the house of your mind, the house of your consciousness, which is a dark room where you don't like to go into it. You just kind of throw everything in there, or perhaps it's a cupboard. You throw everything in there and then quickly close the door. And very, very rarely does that cupboard or room or area get cleaned up, or see a vacuum cleaner, or see the light of day. And things just get stuffed in there. And these things can literally be fears or restrictions or things that you don't necessarily feel that you are able to deal with, or feel like you do not want to deal with at all. It feels like I never really need to go there. There's no need for me, and the mind and the heart and all of the stories are able to make wonderful excuses and explanations and defenses and all the reasons why that door doesn't need to be opened, or that fear doesn't need to be looked at, or why something is not being done. Why we see so many people not doing things because of their fear of the unknown. What happens if I do this? What could possibly happen? I will fail, or I will be rejected, or I just don't know. What happens if I put myself out there? We see this with people when they've been stuck in a job or a relationship or a situation for a very long time, and there is a great deal of stagnancy and hesitancy to make the change, because it's of course easy to know the uncomfortable situation, but what happens on the other side of this, it is technically unknown. So let us, now that we have painted this little understanding, this little picture, let us now do the exploration. So feel within yourself that you are here, that you are present, and know that in this presence, that you are not just this tiny, wee little human being sitting here, but that your consciousness really does expand throughout infinite time and space. So begin perhaps by just feeling the energy outside of your body, and then start to feel yourself literally filling up the room that you're sitting in. And then begin to feel that the space with a building, your house, your apartment building, or wherever you are, your yurt, your tent, your caravan, wherever you are sitting, your car, that it is filling up with all of your energy. It always is filled up with all of your energy, but most of the time people are not aware of it. They are only aware of what is literally behind the skin, or inside the skin, let us say, inside the skin container, the biological body. But your energy field actually reaches all the way across the universe, over to Pluto, over to the sun, over to another galaxy. It reaches out in all directions. It is infinite consciousness. So in this infinite consciousness where everything exists, there is all of the wisdom, there is all of the knowledge, all of the skills. Everything is technically within you, spiritually within you. And you also access all of the information that is constantly being remade or made or discovered or invented by your species as well. You have access to this through that what's called the morphic resonant field. You are constantly in access with everything. So when you open up the gate, so to speak, when you allow the gates to open up, when you go above this idea of life and death, when you transmute through all of these so-called sequences or restrictions, you access all the information. You exist everywhere, in everything, throughout all of consciousness. And you might not have it right there, snap at your fingertips or at the tip of your tongue in the very moment. But with a little bit of deeper meditation, with a little deeper of exploring the accesses, you are able to literally put up your antenna and to tune into the so-called frequencies of information. And this comes by very easily when you allow the self, when you allow the so-called boundaries or borders to just be a little bit more permeable, to allow information through, to allow energy through, to allow openness, to allow this freedom of information, so to speak, this freedom of frequencies. So, is there really an unknown? No, everything is known to you. Everything is potentially known to you. All of the potential is there for that knowing to be present, to be accessed, to be processed, analyzed, utilized by you, to be experienced by you. So in this understanding, there is in fact all darkness and all lightness, everything existing at all times. And you can literally pop in and pop out and pop into all forms and all conditions with your consciousness. You are able to squeeze through keyholes or to walk through walls. You are able to access this form of information. And what is interesting is there are some teachings from some of your ancient sacred, let's call them mystical schools, that have spoken about these books of secrets, these books of all the information, and they are in a room. But the room is completely sealed off and there are no doors or no windows to simply walk through with your biological body. But when the adept reached a certain amount, a certain frequency of transcending time and space, they were able to go into the room using their consciousness. Some these days might call that perhaps remote viewing, to go into this space and to access this information. So this is a matter of spiritual adeptness, of perhaps of discipline, of training the mind and of training yourself to lift up and out of this so-called physical reality and to understand that you can retain the physical reality. You can be in 3D body. You can have flesh and blood and eat and drink and be merry. And at the same time, you can use the consciousness to enter the darkness, to enter the lightness, and to be in all of these places at will. At the will of your spirit, the spirit that is thriving in authenticity, the spirit that is dedicated to being transparent, to being what one might call absolutely present. So feel this expansion within your heart, within your mind. Feel the expansion of the self, the very, very, very powerful self, as it reaches up and out and all the way around, and is finding that it is eternally free, that it is exceptionally, eternally free at all times, at all spaces, and it is able to move freely through all of the dimensions, bringing light to dark, bringing dark to light, all interchangeable, all open, and all accessible to that spiritual being that is you. Feel this freedom, feel this strength, and feel this awareness as it is opening exponentially in every single breath. And taking a deeper breath, gently opening your eyes. And wouldn't that be fun when we reach that level where we don't have to use airplanes or motor cars, and we can just arrive and be there and be together?
Yeah, I had to turn off the mute. Sorry. I was so off in my little plane. But yes. Okay. So that's what we do with Stoke the Fire .guru. And so those of you who would like to get the encapsulated essence the Sunday evening before, rather than you're also welcome just to watch us do this video thing, because we have a lot of fun doing it. But if you just want really half hour, boom, you know what's going on, then look into how to subscribe, stokethefire.guru. We have two specials going on. One is for 6 weeks, you get it for half price. See if you like it. Another one is if you want to go for an entire year, you can have a complimentary session, our session, with either Susie or myself on the phone. So, which is an absolutely great deal. So you can find out more about that on stokethefire.guru. I'm Pamela Cuccinell. I'm a professional astrologer. I work with individuals, and I tend to work very intensely with people. So it's not really, I can tell you all about your horoscope, et cetera, but if you want to delve into really understanding what's coming up for you and why, then I'm a good astrologer to talk to. I work with people ongoing or just one-shot sessions, and you can find out more about me at insightoasis.com. So Susie, why don't you tell folks where they can find you?
Sure, you can find me at susiemazzoli-healer.com, and where I'm available for private sessions by phone and FaceTime, and also in person in New York City. And also, if you're interested in studying energy healing, you can join us. Our courses are full now for the year, but we have a new course starting in January, the Art of Energetic Healing School. And that's at www.energyhealingschoolny.com. And we will also be having classes next year in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, and also in Stone Ridge in New York. So 3 locations, as well as online. You can take the course online, where you're actually watching the recordings from classes. We meet once a month, and we work very, very hard, receive activations and Reiki attunements, and a lot of theory and a lot of practice using our hands. And the classes are consecutive, and then we do a year together, 12 months. And then if people are interested to keep going, I offer an advanced class, which actually is starting this weekend. We have a huge advanced class, so there'll be lots of people coming out there as master teachers in a year. So that's how to reach me. I also do sacred tours to Peru, Costa Rica, and France. And those fill up very, very quickly, usually with people that know me well and students. But if you're interested to come to one of those tours, then please email me directly, and we'll have a chat and see. So everyone, please join us for Stoke the Fire next week. And we all hope that you will find the expression of darkness to be very, let's say, expansive, and showing you the potential. Thanks so much, everyone. See you next week.